The NALCS Summer Split begins in just a couple of weeks after a close spring playoffs and TSM's disappointing time at MSI. Is C9 poised to be the strongest team in NA?
I think we're going to see a very similar situation as the last split. I think both teams have great talent, and outside of that, they sort of live or die by communication and decision making. Really, any team could have won the playoffs last split, and TSM didn't exactly demonstrate fantastic decision making at MSI, so I think we're going to see similar competition to them between them next split.
I think it's going to be the same thing as last split, but in a different wording. I think C9 last split heavily underperformed because they kept the same roster. They were supposed to just dominate the region. They were top 3 last split, but they came in and their improvement was not very good, in my opinion. You know, sure they worked with Ray. I thought Impact in general just played really bad throughout the season. His laning phase is just horrendous, but he's still good at team fighting, so people just tend to overlook his faults. They worked in with Ray, but he has weird team fight team fight positioning as well. And so generally I think C9 is going to come in as a top 3 contender, but they're not going to end rank 1.
At the end of the day, they're going to have to beat TSM again, and twice they have collapsed in the finals. So until they can actually get to the point where they can hold their own in a best of series against TSM, I don't see them coming out ahead in this summer split.
Does CLG go up in the power rankings with their Dardoch acquisition?
CLG is trying to get a little spicy, it feels like. Obviously, Dardoch has a reputation that precedes him in-game and out-of-game, and performance that kind of swings, and maybe a personality that kind of swings. CLG is actually doing a lot of cutesy summer campy teamwork exercises, so I'll be optimistic about it.
CLG's always been a team that's been greater than the sum of their parts. Like that's how I always see CLG. A lot of people confuse them because they're like, oh, why they always underperform or overperform in certain situations. I just think in general, the way that the coaching staff understands the game is very unique, and they make smarter players. And I think that in this situation, Xmithy had a terrible spring split. Coming from the biggest Xmithy lover possible, he's the worst jungler or second worst jungler in the entire region last split. And I think any upgrade is an upgrade for them. And I think even with that in mind, they could have been top 3 last split for sure. And that would have been really good. Like, I don't think even with an underperforming jungler to the largest degree you can underperform, they could have been top 3. And this season, I think easy upgrade.
Yeah, I think CLG will improve with having Dardoch, but I think the jump is just quite minimal to me, really. There's so much that CLG needs to work on, and I think that one of the big reasons for Dardoch coming in is that he's 19. You got Xmithy, 26 years old. Sejuani becomes meta. You really can't have that in that team at the time, so it makes sense.
But let's remember that there's a video circulating of CLG playing a great game of Don't Touch the Floor. The floor is lava? The floor is lava. That's a lot of teamwork.
Is that with or without?
It was with Dardoch, yeah. Some would say he was instrumental in their successful floor crossing.
The way I see it is any team can handle Dardoch, it's going to be CLG. Like, I think they have some of the best framework in terms of coaching. Like, I respect a lot of teams coaching differently. For instance, I think Parth, TSM, and he's even gone on record saying that he developed systems for players, like procedural systems, not only schedule-wise, but like how they get incrementally better as a team. I think he's fantastic at doing that. I think Tony is a player who I have a lot of respect for, to be able to not only create systems, but also like create smarter players. Like, again, and although he's able to at some points bring out the best in players, and if you're able to bring out an average in Dardoch, as well as keep his mental state sane, then I think he's going to be a great player.
I think my problem with Dardoch coming onto the team is similar to a point that Thorin had made a while ago, that I find that Dardoch's synergy really came out when he was on Team Liquid with Piglet, where he was playing with a player that clearly was above his respect in terms of what he had accomplished. So Piglet, a world champion, incredible work ethic. I mean, this guy won finals and was weeping because he didn't play well. So having a player like that, this incredible superstar, I think really works well with Dardoch, especially because if you've seen how he interacts with his team, he's a very amicable person, always very friendly, very touchy, and that's something that's huge in Korean culture, whereas you don't have that here in the States. It's very, very more secluded, and I just don't think that's the environment that he really would thrive in. Like, I would want to see him maybe play with Someday. Like, that would be a sick combination, just having those two players that can really push themselves to the next level. And I see that in CLG. I don't see that there is a player like that. I see that they have players that can mold him into that system as opposed to use him as the pinnacle for what they should revolve their team around.
I don't think he should ever be a pinnacle of a team because I think that he is not consistent enough as a player to be able to do that. I think in all the teams he's been the focal point because jungle tends to snowball early game. But he should be a tool, but he should not be like the focus. And that's what CLG is really good at being able to do. They bring in a lot of tools into like a entire bucket, and they are able to use whichever the best tool fits the given situation.
But I feel like you're not sharpening this tool. Like you're keeping it not as sharp as it could be. Like I feel like there's so much potential in this player at 19 years old. Like if you pair him with a mid laner, that would be insane. Like a Bjergsen or a mid laner that is just really a hard carry as opposed to somebody like Huhi, who is more of a supportive type mid laner that is not as consistent. Like would you not see his potential go further?
I think in terms of mid laners in North America, there's none that have available jungle spots. So you talk about great best mid laners, you think Jensen, Bjerg, probably you put Froggen up there. And you put maybe one other player like Ryu, but none of these have available jungle spots. So actually Hui is, if anywhere, probably around number 5 or 6 in the mid lane. So I think it's fine. Like I think I understand your argument. I understand Doran's argument. It's the same argument I made for Doublelift. Doublelift, terrible like people skills way back when, and over the years he improved steadily. But when he joins TSM, he can't say anything because he has the best player in the region on his team. So if he makes a mistake, it wasn't his fault, so I guess I gotta deal with it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's like how Huni's perceived ego was immediately brought down. You put him with a player like Faker, you gotta shut up because now you are actually dealing with somebody that is better than you that can actually show you how to play the game better.
I think
like who on CLG besides maybe Afromu would show Dardoch how to play the game better.
Oh, I mean,
and coaching staff.
I think
obviously
all of them could show him how to play the game better because I think his understanding of the game is not as good as he thinks. But I think Afromu will do it. I think being on it, I've worked with Afromu. He's the person who you expect to be like a leader. I think his relative performance in normal split, not great up until playoffs. Like the weeks leading up to playoffs, he actually played fantastic. But he's like the type of person who's able to lead a team. And I think with him working with the rest of the team, like you'd be surprised.
So you think they're gonna make like top 3?
I think it'll be top 4.
CLG top 4.
Yep.
Dardoch is a tool, is all I'm pulling out of this. I think I love the point of CLG is a team without pinnacles, and Dardoch should never be the pinnacle, either from lack of experience or even you can see in his past performance, like when a team lives or dies by Dardoch, it never turns out so well most of the time.
Well, you wouldn't want to live or die exactly. You would want to just set him up for success. Think of it like a jungler like the Gigabyte Marines Levi, right? The team, while it revolved around him quite heavily, at times could succeed without him. So when the focus revolves around the player that can really make plays happen, then you have this kind of more in the meta where the jungler is more successful. Now, obviously, maybe it gets changed and it's not so effective, and it's fine to just have him on the back pedal, sure. But you still want to be capable of achieving a situation where he has to take charge and he can carry.
I mean, so I don't really understand this because it's like, okay, what facet can you set up the jungler? Aside from having all winning lanes, so you just want to put them with better players to win lane. Well, let me just look at their team so far. Afromu and Stixer, they're going to be like they were top 3 this season. Maybe next season when Doublelift comes back, they're number 4. Still really, really good bot lane duo. They're going to have pressure on the lane. Go top lane. Darshan ended the split. I thought super fantastic, actually. His top lane play, aside from when he suicided on Camille, was actually really, really good going to end the split. I would put him at like number 5. You know, same thing with mid lane, number 5. I think that of all the teams that play in the LCS, COG sets up their junglers the best because they have usually the most unique and best level 1s of all the teams playing. When you think about in terms of ingenuity and throughout the years, creativity on level 1s, COG has always been the best team to do that. So I think of all the teams you would maybe want to put them on, Dardoch would want to join COG the most because they tend to set up certain players the best possible. And jungle is no exception.
I mean, I would want to have him kept on Immortals and just revolve the team around him. Like the acquisition of Ollie and Cody's son were some of the most bizarre things ever. And even Flame had such an underperforming thing. If you had just kept maybe Pobelter and Dardoch and have the entire 3 revamped around them, now you can have a lot more success.
Ole and Cody's son were some of the best at their position at the end of the split, in my opinion. I think they were top 4, or they're literally.
But these are top 5, top 4. That's not enough.
Oh, well, the thing is, it's like he's not going to be able to join a team that's top 3. Like, in my opinion.
No, there's import. Just buy players from Korea. There's so many players. Just grab them in. You have no import slots on Pobelter and Dardoch.
Well, one, I know. I'm pretty sure they both got into problems. With
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. There's problems around. Like, but that's not where we can't really sit here and discuss that openly.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think Pobelter is the person to be able to work with him either. Like, you want someone who's like able to be flexible, to be able to sacrifice for his lane for the jungler. And Pobelter is a typical, very, very standard mid laner that plays out all the games normally, but he's very high in consistency. You know, I'm telling you, if there's a team that's willing to sacrifice certain areas of their gameplay to make another player perform, it's CLG.
So you think CLG is just gonna sacrifice themselves to make Dardoch be the best player possible?
He usually sacrifices too much, and in fact, part of the reason why his relative growth happened during this split was because he learned that he was giving up too much in his lane to make his other teammates better.
That was an issue he had last MSI as well, for some years ago. So
yeah, but this is a split where I thought he really ended up being like a pretty good mid laner, and I think maybe the ego problems aside from Dardoch, that he will. If any team is going to help him improve to the highest extent, maybe not make him like a world caliber like team, but have his personal growth be as high as it possibly can, I think it's going to be CLG.
For more league interviews and analysis, subscribe to our channel. You can also find stats, discussions, and more on our website and mobile app at blitzesports.com.